Oh my God, what grip! Woo. Boy. Hello and welcome to a not so sunny Spain, but that isn't going to stop me from driving Ferrari's new performance flagship. This is the Ferrari 849 Testarossa. It replaces the SF90 and really is the new performance benchmark because performance is even more, 50 horsepower more. It's 1050 horsepower. But what this car also does, it resurrects the Testarossa name. Now that is quite an iconic name. That name actually goes back 70 years, but the last car we remember this name with was that 512 Testarossa. And really this car has a lot to live up to. So does it. Well, that last Testarossa, which goes back to the 90s, was really a beautiful car. It was that special era when Ferraris looked absolutely gorgeous. Today, Ferraris are more about form following function. That's not to say this car isn't stunning to look at. So let's take a quick look at some of the design cues. So from the front, there's no doubt the 849 is very striking. You've got this big black strip over here. The whole idea is to mimic the pop-up headlamps of the earlier cars of the 80s and 90s. And it does a pretty good job, though I have to say there's a little bit of Daytona in this. What's also very noticeable is this massive air splitter over here. Now again, this is all about function because what this air splitter does, it feeds air into the brakes for better cooling and all the other ancillaries. Now let's move to the side of the car, and as you can see, it's a very complex door over here. In fact, Ferrari says this is their most sculpted door they've ever done, all out of aluminium. And you have got this massive air intake over here which goes to the intercoolers. Now what's missing really are those side strakes which purists would have liked, because that really was what identified and was so iconic on the earlier Testarossa. But Ferrari says that wouldn't have given them the cooling requirements that this massive 4-liter V8 engine needs. What you have over here is this black vertical strip, which again is very identifiable, but though it does give the side a bit of a pinched look. But I think the best looking bit about the car is the rear, which looks absolutely stunning, and you have got these very characteristics twin tail or these twin little spoilers, again very functional. And this again goes back to the sports car prototypes of the 70s and 80s, notably the 512 LMs, and really this is again a bit of heritage which Ferrari is playing on. But honestly, this looks absolutely stunning. It really identifies this car and really brings back a lot of that heritage and nostalgia. And the name Testarossa, well, that's Italian for red head, and that red head is actually the iconic red camshaft covers which has been around since the 1970s. And you've got two ports over here, one for the charging and one for the fuel. Don't forget, this is a hybrid combination of electric and combustion power. The 849's plug-in hybrid system is conceptually the same as the SF90's. It pairs a 4-liter V8 with 3 electric motors. 2 motors sit on the front axle for all-wheel drive and torque vectoring, and one on the rear axle that assists the V8 for extra power and energy recovery under braking. The V8 now uses the biggest turbos yet on a Ferrari engine to achieve 830 horsepower, whilst the e-motors produce 220 horsepower. There's a 7.45 kilowatt-hour battery which gives 16 to 25 kilometers of electric-only running, useful when you want to leave home discreetly. And interestingly, there's no conventional reverse gear. You can go backwards only on electric power. Is the cabin hugely different? Let's jump in and have a look. So with the 849, Ferrari have made some very significant changes over the SF90, and the big change really is that buttons are back. Yay! Ferrari have realized that there's nothing that beats the tactile feel of a solid button, especially the engine start-stop. And you also have the drive selector raised over here. It's now a floating piece, and again right up there and more in your view. But with 1050 horsepower now, how user-friendly is the 849 Testarossa to drive? Let's find out. So the 849 Testarossa, it builds on Ferrari's hybrid formula, which is a 4-liter V8 with 3 electric motors. Ferrari says that is really the perfect formula for performance, lightweight and agility. So what does 1050 horsepower feel like? In one word, insane! Acceleration is brutal. The response is instant. The 8-speed DCT gearbox is one of the best there is, with lightning fast shifts. Squeeze the throttle and the world blurs, everything rushing past at 3x speed. And really what is amazing is how linear the power is. Absolutely no turbo lag. It just rockets out of corners. The electric motors are silent enablers here, seamlessly filling in any power gaps. What you get isn't a classic big turbo crescendo, but a relentless hyper EV style surge that never lets up. Of course, the red line is just 8,500 RPM. I just say 8,500 RPM because the Temerario's V8 goes to 10,000. But honestly, those are just bragging rights. This engine is just something else. Woof. Wow. Now this V8 at full chat, it is loud, but honestly, it's not spine-tingling loud. I think European noise restrictions have muted this engine to some extent. Compared to the 296's V6, the V8 doesn't sound as spine-tingling or distinctive. And though the 849 soundtrack is quite throaty, it's more functional and linear than operatic, especially when you're not pulling it to the red line. But I think really the talking point here is how it puts all that power down. Now honestly, this car is much easier to drive than I thought. Of course, I'm nowhere near the limit, but you get a lot of confidence, especially around corners. The grip is just phenomenal. And it's the way it just rockets out of corners. Woo! That is what is just amazing. Flicking through these twists and curves, the 849 Testarossa feels extremely stable and predictable. It just flatters your inputs, builds confidence, and makes you feel like a rock star. What makes the 849 controllable at speed, particularly in tight corners and sequences, is that the weight is concentrated between the axles. So agility doesn't suffer in the way it might in a big front-engine V12. And even the ride on these rather uneven and bumpy roads is absolutely incredible. With the standard Magnarite dampers in their softer, bumpy road setting, the 849 rides with more compliance than you'd expect of a 1700 kilo hyper hybrid on 20-inch wheels. This astonishing ride quality will surely be a selling point for Indian customers. And even the handling is amazing, very predictable. The level of grip is just amazing. You can just go faster and deeper into corners. In fact, frankly, the limitation is me, the driver. This car's got such amazing potential. It is just phenomenal. With just 2 turns lock to lock, the 849 steering is quick, though not as hyperactive as the 296s. But now if you compare it to the 296, that has a slightly sharper front end. The truth is that the 296 is a pure two-wheel drive car. It feels more involving and dynamically purer with an uncorrupted steering feel. You can feel the tractive forces in the front over here when you absolutely nail it. But overall, this car is very, very predictable and you can just belt it. Back at the Monte Blanco circuit, a bright red Assetto Fiorano 849 is waiting for me in the pit lane. In Assetto Fiorano's spec, the 849 Testarossa feels like it's shed its last layer of civility and gone fully track native. It gets racing seats with a 4-point harness, sticky Michelin Cup 2 rubber, extra downforce, Multimatic dampers and loses 30 kilos in the process. The effect is immediately obvious. There's a greater sense of bite on turn-in and phenomenal grip everywhere. Even on a damp circuit, the Assetto Fiorano feels locked in and eager to change direction. The best part for novices like me is the Assetto never feels nervous. So I'm in the Assetto Fiorano, which is really the hottest version of the 849. Woo. Oh my God, what grip! Little bit of understeer on the limit. Very, very predictable. And the brakes, they are absolute like hitting a wall. Oh, on the warm down lap, now I can speak, get my breath back. Just performance just staggering. I mean, you can imagine a car that rockets to 100 in just 2.2 seconds, doing about 265 down the straight. I'm sure others would have gone faster. You can carry just amazing speed into the corner. Where it all comes beautifully together is with the Manottino set to CT off. Okay, so next stint and going with CT off. The tail does come out with CT off. It is so playful. I mean, you really get confidence opposite locking it. Yes, you can. Literally, little dabs of opposite lock. The ESC really is so well calibrated, makes you feel like a hero, but yet doesn't go send you into the gravel traps and make you feel like a zero. It's an incredible feeling being able to step the tail out, knowing that there's a safety net that's always in place to make sure your reflexes and car control skills aren't tested beyond their limits. Yeah, so second stint on the cool down lap, going to a higher level of traction control just before the ESC off one, where it's completely off. And honestly, it's just amazing how brilliantly calibrated it is. Makes you feel like a hero, getting it slightly sideways, catching it with a little bit of counter steer, and really the electronic nannies making sure you don't snap too sideways or end up in the gravel traps. But oh boy, what a car. Just outstanding. And on a track it really sounds good, especially blasting down that straight. The gearbox with those lightning upshifts, just mega. And mega is what the 849 Testarossa is in every respect, even though the lesser 296, I have to say, is the sweeter car to drive. But the 849 Testarossa is a statement car. It's the ultimate flex. It represents the absolute peak of Ferrari's regular production range. And that matters in the Indian context. Indian supercar buyers love to flex, even if they can only ever exploit a fraction of the performance on public roads. And the 849 Testarossa delivers that flex in spades, visually, technically, and emotionally. For most owners, the new Ferrari flagship hypercar at rupees 10 crore plus is simply a declaration of arrival.